In this video, we'll be discussing whether you have the scribe attachment, how it's set up in SheetCam, and how it operates. First of all, on the machine, you will see two regulators if you have a scribe attachment. One regulator runs from 0 to 140 psi, and one runs from 0 to 60. The one running from 0 to 140 actually operates the scribe, and per scribe manufacturer specs should be operated between 90 and 120 psi. So you'll want to set that a one-time setting and then leave it. The other regulator is where you really can control a lot of things. It is what applies down pressure with the air cylinder that pushes the scribe into the metal. General rule of thumb is you scribe between 10 and 20 psi on that. The lighter the pressure, the less deep the scribe line will be. It also can tie in with speed. So if you go with a really light pressure and then move at a really fast rate, you're going to have a really fine line. If you want a really deep line, then you would increase the pressure and move at a slower rate. And basically the hammer hits that same area more times in a given amount of time than going fast. So that's really the operation of the scribe on the machine. And again, I'm going to show you here now how you create different tools. And you can have different tools even though you're using the same plate marker, the same scribe, by basically changing settings on how fast it moves. All right, the video that covered SheetCam adding tools, it relates exactly the same way, except when you add a tool with a scribe, you obviously choose the scribe plate marker, and so you don't have quite as many choices here. You put the diameter in, the feed rate in, cut height, start, delay, and pause. All right, you give it a name the same way. Tool number is the critical thing. The tool number has to be greater than 100. As you can see, the first one I have is 101, so this one would become 102. If it's not, then the computer is not going to turn the scribe on, it's going to turn the torch on. That's how it differentiates what offset to use and what relay to fire, is by tool number. So it has to be greater than 100. Diameter, the standard scribe that you get with the machine, there's 55 thousandths. Tool number will be 102. Feed rate, we're going to make this a really fast moving scribe with a really shallow line, so we'll scribe at like 60. Cut height is irrelevant. It's going to reference the torch and it's going to lift up to clear, so you can leave cut height at 0. All right, start delay. We need to have a start delay because there's a delayed response from the time the solenoid valve opens till the air actually enters the cylinder and pushes the scribe down. Typically, it's anywhere from half a second to 1.5. The reason I say typically is it's not a hard and fast rule because it all depends on what pressure you're running your down pressure at with that regulator. If you're running it at 20 psi, things are going to happen a lot quicker than if you're running it at 10 psi. So it is going to take some trial and error to play with. Since I'm going to be doing a shallow line and I'm going to be running low pressure, I'm going to say that I want more like 1.3 second delay, start delay. Pause at the end of the cut. What we want is we want to give it time for that solenoid to close and all the air to drain out of that cylinder and the spring to pull it back up. So typically, if you're going to air this on the high side. Otherwise, the machine will continue movement before the scribe has lifted off the metal and you'll get a nasty, undesired line. So we'll put 2 seconds here. And that's it. We've created a new scribe tool. It works exactly the same way. Just make sure that your scribe tool is always over 100. Okay, the other settings that can be done within the scribe tool, they should be set when you get the machine. You may find in time that things are not exactly lined up or things have changed. Added a different torch, you've tilted the torch a little bit. And that is the offset. What that is when you choose to scribe a line, for example, if we go here and we want to scribe that inside circle and cut the outside square, we can just choose, let's do inside, we can just choose this plate marker tool, okay? And let's bump that up to 50. I don't want any lead in or lead out on that. I don't care if THC is on or off. All right, so now it's going to scribe this, and then it's going to go and cut this. Your 0, 0 point is based off the center line of your torch, even though you'll notice the scribe sits behind the torch and to the left of it. The computer knows the difference as far as the distance that the scribe sits behind and to the left, and that is set up in SheetCam ahead of time. So when it calls for that tool, it'll automatically move the scribe to where it needs to go. So for example, if we want to scribe here, and let's say that that's 2 inches from the 0, 0 point, okay? And we know our scribe sits exactly 2 inches to the left of the torch. When it goes to scribe here, it's actually going to move 4 inches. So you don't have to worry about lining the scribe up with anything. You just line the center line of the torch up. If you find that your scribes are always a little bit off, they're either too far forward or back, or too far to the left or the right of where 0 was, go to Options, Machine, Post Processor. You'll see here that it will say New LDR Scribe. Edit the post, maximize it. Now you want to be very careful in here. You don't want to change anything you don't understand. You're going to notice, scroll down, and you're going to see where it says Scriber X and Scriber Y, and there'll be a number there. It might be negative, it might be positive. Typically the X is positive and the Y is negative. That is in millimeters, okay? Regardless of what units you use in your control program or in your drawing, it is always done in millimeters. So on this machine that we have sitting here at the shop, you can see that our scribe sits 95.99168 millimeters to the left of the torch, and it's behind the torch by 53.13172 millimeters. So you can adjust these values if you need be, and leave the Z1 at nil, because we do not have, there is no Z-axis work with a scribe. When you're done, you would click X. It'll ask if you want to save. You choose yes. And that concludes the video for the scribe.